Something big is happening in the world of European medical research. A massive transformation, actually. There's a critical deadline coming up fast, and it's set to completely change how clinical trials are run across the entire European Union. So let's break it down.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the old challenges, what was broken. Then we'll dive into the new regulation and the cool tech making it all happen. After that, we'll look at the new standards for transparency, and finally, we'll zero in on that all-important 2025 deadline. Okay, so to really get why this change is such a big deal, we've got to look back first. We need to understand the problems it was designed to fix. So what exactly was wrong with the old way of doing things?
Just picture this for a second. Imagine you're a sponsor with some groundbreaking new therapy. You want to run a single clinical trial across, say, Germany, France, and Spain. Well, before 2022, that meant submitting separate applications to each country. You'd be dealing with totally different review processes, different timelines, different data requirements. It was a logistical nightmare, a complex, time-sucking, and honestly, super frustrating puzzle.
And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out perfectly. Removing from this fragmented system where every country was basically its own island to one unified system. The new regulation swaps out all those separate applications for one single submission. And those scattered reviews, they're replaced by one coordinated assessment. It's a fundamental shift, all about unity and transparency. So to fix this fragmented mess, the European Union came up with a solution. Regulation EU 536/2014. Think of it as a single piece of legislation designed to streamline the entire process.
And the core mission was really simple. Create one single harmonized standard. Now, why does that matter so much? Well, it makes Europe a way more attractive place for cutting-edge research. And what does that mean in the end? It means new medicines can get to patients faster. That's the real goal here.
Now, this didn't just happen overnight. It's been a very careful, phased rollout. The regulation itself was adopted way back in 2014, but the real action kicked off in 2022 with the new portal. Then in 2023, it became mandatory for all new trials, which brings us to that final crucial step in 2025. All right, let's talk about the engine driving this whole transformation, the CTIS system. CTIS stands for the Clinical Trials Information System, and it is truly the heart of this new regulation. It's the one-stop digital portal for everything. Sponsors use it to submit applications, regulators use it to assess them, and the public can use it to access information about trials. It's the single front door for clinical research in Europe. And the new workflow is all about simplicity. You submit one single application through CTIS for all the countries you're targeting. That kicks off one single coordinated assessment, which leads to one single final decision that applies across the board. It's a complete overhaul, laser-focused on efficiency.
But this isn't just about making things faster. The new regulation fundamentally raises the bar for how clinical trials are run and how that information gets shared with the world.
Yeah, efficiency is a key goal for sure, but the biggest drivers here are actually transparency and harmonization. The whole system is built to make trial information public by default, so everyone, from patients to fellow researchers, can see what's going on. And harmonization, that just ensures that high standards like good clinical practices are applied the same way everywhere in the EU. And this cascade of changes, it creates a ripple effect of benefits for everyone. The public gets way more transparency. Researchers get simplified safety reporting and clear international standards. And when all of this works seamlessly, it just makes the entire European research ecosystem that much more competitive on the global stage. Which brings us to the most urgent part of this whole conversation, the deadline. The countdown is officially on.
Okay, listen up. For any clinical trial that was approved under the old rules, the old clinical trial directive, and is still ongoing, there is no more time to waste. The window to get on board is closing fast.
This is the year 2025. It marks the end of the old system, period. There are no extensions, there is no plan B.
So, circle this date on your calendar, January 31st, 2025. By this day, every single ongoing trial has to be fully moved over to the CTI system and be compliant with the new regulation. Any trial that misses this cutoff will no longer be legally allowed to continue in the EU. It's that simple.
So, what are the key takeaways here? First, the unified system is here to stay, and CTIS is the mandatory front door. Second, that January 2025 deadline is non-negotiable. And finally, and this is super important, making this transition isn't a walk in the park.
It takes careful, strategic planning and deep regulatory expertise. The kind of expertise you often find in professionals who've already navigated complex systems like this in other parts of the world, like the US or Brazil. Bringing in that kind of experience can be a game changer for a smooth transition. Look, this whole new framework is designed to make Europe a global leader in clinical research. The system is built, the deadline is set, so the big question now is the European research community ready to really seize this monumental opportunity?
And for anyone who wants to do a really deep dive into the regulatory groundwork behind all these changes, Dr. Natalia Bellin's doctoral thesis is a fantastic comprehensive resource. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.